Sean Sewell with the Engearment.com podcast. Really excited to have back on for the third exciting time, my man, Ryan Humphries. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you for having me, sir.
My absolute pleasure. I love the self-branding. You got Existence Athletics logo right there. You got name on your shirt, so you don't forget. This is good.
Right. You know, like you were mentioning earlier, sporting teams, right? Someone wearing another man's name or another female's name. You know, yeah. I don't watch sports, so
you are your sport.
I am my own sport, right?
I can appreciate that. It's kind of funny. Like a lot of people, not a lot, I'll say some people out there are really bummed about no sporting events right now. And I couldn't honestly care less. Like, whatever. The mountains are still there. The dogs still need to go outside. I like to be outside. You do stuff outside. It's been really, we're going to go on a deep tangent, I'm sure, but it's been really interesting to see how people have adapted, embraced, or quite the opposite during the situation.
Yeah. I mean, it affects everybody a little bit differently.
It does.
Right. There's a great post I saw. It's floating around the interwebs on how, you know, there's a lot of people saying, oh, we're in the same boat. You see this one? It's like, we're in the same storm, but we're definitely not in the same boats. It's like we're all weathering the same storm, right? But we are definitely not in the same boat. And there's a lot of people right now that, okay, you know, they were working from home before. That's the same. Then there are people that are trying to figure out if they're going to be able to pay their mortgage or put food on the table, right? Like it's same storm, different boats. But the sports thing, I couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what season it is. I don't know who was supposed to be playing.
Yeah, is there playoffs? Something?
Is that a thing?
I don't know. I don't really.
Am I missing the Super Bowl? I don't know.
You know, it's kind of interesting. And to your point, that's a very good analogy. We're all in the same storm. We have different boats, different resources. You're right. A lot of people, you know, this isn't that big a deal because they do work from home, or they can work from home. Like my wife, you know, she was working from home one day a week already. We built her little office I was showing you earlier, and she was, you know, very effective. And now she's pivoted to full-time at home, like most people.
Yeah.
She has a job, but unfortunately, you know, she works in HR, and today she has to give out COBRA letters and layoffs and furloughs and reduction in hours, which is a very common coping strategy for businesses to survive. And, you know, I was talking to Jim Lamacusa of Cusa Tea and Coffee 2 weeks ago about him laying off a couple people, but he felt bad about it. But by letting those people go, it allows them to get to unemployment, which is at an all-time high, right? But it's easy to apply for. And those resources are there to help people. But also, he had a good point. If his business doesn't stay in business, then he can't serve his customers or give jobs to his other staff, right? So there's some necessary, I don't say evils, but necessary hard decisions a lot of people are facing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's many ways to look at this.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
And
it's
before I announced the intro, we were talking, you and I and Garrett, for like half an hour and seeing how, as fitness professionals and creatives, what we're doing to adapt. And Garrett brought up a good point. You guys are like twice as busy as usual, right? We're all putting overtime. Us, you know, like we're going to get into what you're creating because that's a whole nother topic right there. That's exciting stuff. But it's great because people like you, especially Ryan and Garrett and our colleagues, are seeing new ways to serve our audience, right? You have a gym, a very wonderful gym, a great gym that I'm a big fan of. I've gone there for strong first certifications. There's going to be a flexible steel here in a few months there. You know, you guys are at the very top, I think, in the industry for leadership and education, and you can't go there right now. That stinks, right? And I have 3 gyms I closed down in one day, and that stinks. But, you know, we were talking about earlier, Zoom. My goodness, it's been such a good resource, or FaceTime even, or whatever, Google Hangout, whatever it is that the person has access to is still a great resource. And like it's like the extra personal now. We're putting the extra personal in personal training because we're in your home and you're in our home, and you get to see our dogs and you get to see the wife or the kids, and you know, it's very personal.
Yeah. It's extremely personal training, right?
That's your bedroom. Nice. This is my bedroom.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, you know, have checked in, which has been amazing. Just kind of like people I hadn't heard from in a long time, friends, family, colleagues, you know, former members, things like that, just kind of checking in. I'm like, they're like, oh, what are you doing with all your free time? And I kind of laughed like, oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that's cute.
I mean, I feel like I have been gifted a little bit with a little bit of extra sleep. Right.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we went from, having 5:30 a.m. classes, having 5:30 a.m. training sessions. When I have a 5:30 a.m. training session, I like to get up at 4. I like to be, in the zone, if you will. But now our earliest class is 7. So in doing that, I'm still getting up. I might get up at 5:30, but I'm not getting up at 4.
Right.
So I've been gifted this little extra sleep. But as far as the people that are sitting around hanging out, just waiting, that is not I.
No,
is not us.
It's very evident what you're doing.
The existence coaches are throwing down. I mean, like you said, the connection, the personal connection, the personal training. One of the things that we kind of threw out there at the very beginning was like, and I'm sure, same with your folks. Typically, if you've hired a personal trainer, if you've hired a coach of any sort, right? You've sat down with that person and you've said, look, what is it that you're looking for? Maybe they found you, you found them. Eventually, you guys sat down together. Maybe it was virtual, maybe it was over the phone, maybe it was in person. And you said, what are you looking for, right? And you kind of described what it is that you do. They described what it is that they were looking for. And they decided that you were the person that was going to get them from point A to point B, right? And maybe, you didn't necessarily need a barbell to do that. Now, if it was an Olympic weightlifter that said, hey, I've got a 200 kilo snatch and I want a 205, like, okay.
Yeah. Very specific.
If that's the case, they probably have a full-on Olympic setup in their garage and they're already good to go, and you can still coach them, right? Yep. But that's kind of the big message that we were trying to put out there was like, look, you guys invested with us, trusted us, that we were the people to help you get from point A to point B. We can still hold you accountable. We can still create programs. We can still check in, give you that one-on-one attention, whether it's in a group atmosphere on a Zoom class, or whether that's a phone call or a Facebook message or whatever it is. And it really has put us in more contact, I think, with our members. Yep. And really trying to figure out how community is adaptable, right? Or like how to keep the community. The one-on-one is great, but that community aspect has still been, it's been a little tricky, but we're figuring it out.
Oh, it's so true. I'm glad to hear all that, and I can relate to all that too, because I got up at 4:30 like you did, because I had a 5:30 Monday through Friday, and the gift of extra sleep has been very nice. So my own recovery has gone up, which is great. So my own fitness is like increasing in nice ways because I get a little extra recovery, and I'm so close to my kitchen, so I can make a better sandwich, instead of eating on the road. So a lot of little positive spins. And you're right. Any fitness coach or professional or business person who was hired to do a service in person still has the ability to reach out and serve in good capacity for most services, right? Like you mentioned, if a person, even if they don't have much in the way of equipment, they can still continue their fitness at home. And I've had people who literally had no dumbbells, no TRX, no kettlebells, none of that stuff, but they had a dog. I was like, the dog, you got a kitchen counter, we can do all this stuff and make a very effective program, right? And I think that one of the messages I hope that I can convey to people is there's no limitations on this. There's no like entry fee. There's no, there's no barriers, right? No. You already have the technology in your pocket and to do this.
The only limitations are, right, sounds cheesy, but in your own mind.
For sure.
And it is amazing how sometimes I like to have a special song if I'm going for a certain lift. And that's the thing, but like, do I need it? Like, does the song actually change my physiology? Maybe just because it makes me remember and things like that. But realistically, I don't need Eye of the Tiger to lift that deadlift, right? Now, it helps.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't need it. And it's been very interesting seeing the adaptability. And you'll see two people who, throw down in the training center all the time. And when we put the message out that, hey, guys, like the state has mandated us to shut our doors, right? Some folks were like, what do I need? Right? Should I buy a kettlebell? If so, where from? Where can I get a pull-up bar? Right? I got this big ass sack of onions, right? Can I use that as a sandbag, right? Yeah. And I encourage people to have, kind of a full home gym setup, if you will, maybe a couple kettlebells, a couple dumbbells, a sandbag, a box, stuff like that. And then other folks we just saw, and this was a very small percentage, just said, you know what, I think I might put my membership on hold. I just, I'm not going to work out. And it was because they didn't have the gym. Like, you could still do push-ups, you could still do squats, you could still go for a run, and you can put your membership on hold. Like, if that's what we need to do, 100%. Like, we're trying to help everybody out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tricky situation, right? If somebody's having any sort of, financial issues, we had people that reached out and said, hey, I'm not sure what the next couple months looks like for me, right? Immediately put that membership on hold. And then we had folks that said, hey, I don't know what the next couple months looks like for you. Give me an extra membership. And we were like, whoa.
Beautiful.
I cried a lot.
Yep.
It's been an emotional roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
But the idea that, we need this location, we have this sacred ground to train in. And because we've thrown their routine off.
Yeah.
So, but that adaptability, like you said, like the only limitations is in your mind.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you can do push-ups. I had a friend who was a big Olympic lifter, and he's like, well, I can't Oli lift. And for 3 weeks, he did nothing. I was like, man, you're not even doing any push-ups. And he's like, oh, he's like, I think I need to get a full Oli set up, in my garage. I was like, I encourage you to do like a few push-ups a day, maybe some squats, maybe some lunges, like get a couple dumbbells. And he's like, no. And so he actually went out, bought horse stall mats, and got a full Olympic setup in his garage eventually. But like, there was a month where he just did nothing.
Yeah.
Oh. And it's interesting just seeing how different people's minds work. And some people, like, they know that the training is what keeps them sane.
Yep.
They know that some sort of physical effort, some sort of physical exertion keeps them sane and makes them sleep better at night, releases certain hormones. And then some folks are just like, well, that was what I did. I went to the gym. The gym's not there, so I guess I can't work out.
Yep. And
so it's interesting trying to figure out how to reach each one of those individuals differently, and just kind of listen to them to figure out, like, what is it that you really need right now?
That's a great question. And I'm still trying to figure that out. Like you said, I had a third of my people were like, let's, we're doing this, right? And then probably the other third were like, I reached out and like, feel it out. Like, how are things going? How's family life? How, job loss, let's work together, let's work up here and work in here, and then we'll get doing this. And then the other third just checked out completely, you're like, bummer, And again, like you said, everybody's handling this differently. Some people are still fully employed, fantastic, working from home, like my wife, fantastic. Myself, I lost, temporarily displaced, probably 70% of my income, right? Which is a lot. And so, thankfully, I've learned to have savings and have other things in place, and then double down on other areas. Like, luckily with Engearment, I get to work with, North Face and Patagonia just opened back up last week. So we're still working with those.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's been kind of cool too. Like, there was that first week in middle of March when, like I said, my three gyms closed in like 1 hour. I was like, all right. I'm real curious what to do next. All right.
Curious is an interesting word choice.
Right. I was like, I'm gonna get some more coffee. We're gonna figure this out. Fortunately, you and I have access to some of the best minds, I think, in the world. Like, that afternoon, I got a hold of Jeff Sokol, reached out to Dan John, Pat Flynn, Pat Rigsby, all these really intelligent people who've been doing this for a very long time, right? Yeah.
Right.
And they were approachable, professional, kind, great advice, and so Tuesday morning, the next day, first Zoom meeting, and I, like you, I was so moved by it. Like, I broke down in tears like a third of the way through. I'm like, this is really doable. Like, this is fantastic. And like, your cat's pretty entertaining too. Like, but it was cool, like, seeing this person adapt to it. And long story longer, you're right. Everybody's handling things a little bit differently. But there's a lot of resources out there, and unemployment is at all-time high, but it's a pretty simple process to go through. I've helped a lot of my riders from Engearment go through the process, provided paperwork. It's very doable. SBA stuff. I've been on webinars with SIA, which is Snow Sports Industry Association, which is like basically the company that is the PR for all the mountain resorts for skiing and snowboarding. Obviously, they close too. So I've been on webinars with them and webinars with outdoor professionals, and how are they handling with their businesses closing down? Like, literally, Patagonia, like in that week, Patagonia closed their doors to their warehouse, closed everything, kind of proactively, which is great because they're really keen on quality of life, their people, taking care of them. Like, Yvonne wrote a book, Let My People Go Surf. Like, take care of yourself first, and then come back and do your job well. And so it was amazing seeing how these companies pivoted, what they're doing. But a long story longer, that some of them are getting back to their warehouses, getting back to working on stuff. And, the outdoors aren't going anywhere. So we were joking before the podcast about camping. We have a deck, and I have a tent on the deck. And so yeah, it's really entertaining, and I enjoyed it. And it actually snowed for like a good week there, right? So really got the tent out and loaded up with some wet snow, and still working with like Thermarest and these different companies sending us stuff to test out. So things are still moving forward. Even behind the scenes, people might not see it. And that's another thing too, this is a whole tangent, but social media and news in general, right? I think it's very easy to get stuck in a mindset when you are consuming this information, and it's coming just kind of from one or two angles as opposed to the whole picture. And it's easy to get a fear mindset and like, oh my gosh, everything's so awful. Well, maybe that is a perception, but also like, oh my gosh, like people are doing amazing things. Companies are stopping making skis and snowboards and stuff and clothes, making PPE and face masks. A bikini company sent me over because they want me to do an article. I wrote this article from bikinis to face mask, and it's like our #1 trending thing for last month. And literally, I've got this like bikini, like pink looking face mask, and but it's a good face mask, and you put a little filter in there. But people are pivoting in all these different lines of work, and your guys are pivoting so well too. And back to your community, that is a good question. Like, how do you reach out to these people? You have a big community. Like my community is relatively small. It's under 50 people, right? Yours is very large. So do you have any tips for other fitness professionals out there and how to reach out and support people during this time?
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. There's a lot.
I know that's a lot of words.
A lot there to unpack. I mean, community has always been at the heart of existence. It's one of our core values, right? Adventure, community, and education. ACE, easy to remember.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to the community, right, there are plenty of people that have been getting fit by themselves for a very long period of time. And it kind of, to answer your question, it kind of like as far as what we've done and maybe some advice that I could give, like really comes through laying down those core values, adventure, community, education. When we are put up against a question of, should we pivot this way? Should we pivot that way? We have to stop, ask ourselves, does it align with our core values? Is that who we are at heart? And if the answer is no, then probably not going to do it. And I think about how, fortunate I am just to have, I stepped away from the big box gym arena about 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago. And had I still been in there, I still have a lot of colleagues that are in that scenario, and they're all on unemployment right now, which is great. Like that there's a safety net,
right?
But they also don't have an option. Like there is no Zoom meeting for them unless they wanted to go kind of outskirts or around the boundaries and do a Zoom personal training or something like that. But because, what we built was kind of built on the foundation of community, right? Of adventure, and realizing that looks different for everybody. And human beings wouldn't have made it very far had we not had our community. So what does that look like now that I can't fist bump you, in person and fist bump 10 of you in a row? What does that look like virtually? And when everybody kind of joined, sounds like cult, when our members came on board, right? So like if someone is a member of Existence, typically they've gone through some sort of pipeline. They've gone through some sort of foundations, and that was a one-on-one training program. It was personal training. And so we got to know them. We got to know their background, who they were, what they were about, where's their point A now and where's their point B, and how could we get them from point A to point B? And so we have a little bit more of a connection, I would say, than a lot of like some of the larger gyms out there. If you're a personal trainer, like, exactly what I'm talking about, right? You have that one-on-one connection. If you're someone who is just teaching, a big group class, you may or may not have that connection. But what's very interesting, I'm kind of long story longer.
I like these stories.
We have, so what we did, so we have four coaches at Existence. And so we kind of divided up and our membership into what we call like PCs. Who is your personal coach? So like I have a personal coach for, 30 or so folks that I reach out to. And at least once a week, I'm either doing a text message, a Facebook message, a phone call, an email, a Zoom. and seeing, okay, we're putting out the program,
Mm-hmm.
we're putting out online programming through Zoom, but then I'm helping these guys like, hey, is this what you need? Can
Mm-hmm.
we tweak this a little bit? Do you have an extra pull-up bar? Today we're doing Renegade Rows. We rented out equipment, so
smart.
The gym is pretty bare. The
Yeah.
athletics training center, right? So we rented out all of our kettlebells, all of our dumbbells. So much so that now I'm doing demos with like 18-pound kettlebells, which is kind of funny. It makes for an entertaining video. But we rented out a kettlebell, a dumbbell, and a plate to all of our members, and we said, also get a backpack, something like that. And so then we designed kind of really two programs. One, we just kept writing the original program, so we'll have that programming in the future, right? So we're still programming in deadlifts, and there are some people that have, barbells. We're still programming in cleans, things like that. But for the majority of people, and we kind of split this up in what we call a practical and a tactical. And so the practical is now based around a sandbag, a dumbbell, a kettlebell, and a plate. And so if you have those things or something similar to those things, you can do it. We've got one guy in Kansas. He was a former member, and he's like, hey, if I hop on these Zoom calls, he's like, I want to buy a membership, for the next month or so. Yeah. So he became a member again, and he's got this case of water, and that's what he uses for a lot of the lifts. It's fantastic. But that, all of that aside, as far as, keeping that community together, it really is about the personal connection. I know, like Pat Rigsby, from day one, that's been his number one thing. The thing that's going to separate the great trainers, in the future, the coaches, is that personal one-on-one connection. Like, there are some folks that are never going to have that in a large environment. And that's really what's going to keep. I think there are going to be some gyms out there. There are going to be a lot of businesses, unfortunately, that don't make it through this. And I think, I think they could, if maybe they had a little bit more of that personal connection. If they're sharing really what it is that they're all about, if they're sharing their vision, and all of their members or all their clients, students know that vision, and they are, one with that, and they're continuing to put that value out there, I think they could be okay after we weather this storm. But it's about that personal connection and really listening to people. And that's what I would say to any coach out there. Check in with your people. Like, they need you now more than ever. Even if you can't see them, if you're on unemployment, you're working in a big box gym, text them, call them once a week, twice a week, and just check in, man. For some people, I mean, depression's a real thing.
Oh yeah,
you've been in the industry for a long time. Whether we're dealing with it ourselves, I know a lot of members who end up, getting personal trainers, and everybody has something going on. And they've lost that connection as well. So just reaching out, man, reaching out.
That's super spot on and super actionable. So, I mean, honestly, like, if you're not sending a text right now, listening to this podcast to your people, then you're missing the message.
Pause it, give them a call. Yeah. And same thing with, friends and family.
Oh, so much so. I don't know about you. Okay, I'm going to go say something real quick here. I have never felt more connected to people and closer, although physically apart, than I have in the last 6 weeks. It's been amazing. And it's just, it could be a text, it could be a phone call. I FaceTimed my stepmother-in-law last night for an hour and a half. I don't even know what made me would do it. I just sat down on the porch and did that, and we hung out and we showed our dogs off, and that really helped her. It helped me. And you're right, reaching out to your loved ones, and hopefully you have love for the people you serve. Reach out. Just reach out.
And I was a little bit biased on that community question, because I was talking about the existence community. Yeah. But in reality, I mean, have you read the book Blue Zones? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the book. At least my
Dan Buettner, I think.
I haven't read the book, but in my interpretation, Blue Zones are a place where people go that creates great joy and replenishes their soul.
The blue zones, like that, technically speaking, it is the areas of the earth that we know of where people routinely live into their 90s, 100s with no disease. Right. So like, you meet the 95-year-old cab driver that's like, hey, where are you headed? Right. The 100-year-old spear fisherman in Okinawa that's still getting up every day at 6 a.m. to fish for his family. And so looking around these places, in Sardinia, Italy, in Okinawa, Loma Linda, California, Costa Rica, there's 5 that are very well known. There's a great TED talk on them. But the number one thing, if you take out what these guys are eating, and you take out where they live or their ethnic background or genetics or anything like that, the 2 things that seems to be the two correlations, and in this case, I think that do cause causation, and that is a sense of purpose and community. Yeah. So they all, if you were to ask every one of them, what is your sense of purpose? They could tell you immediately. And the second one being community. And it, like, that community really hit hard because, when we talked about, like, okay, adventure community education, having a community of cool adventure athletes that want to do the same things as you, that have that growth and abundance mindset, that are like, yeah, I want to level up. You want to level up too? All right, now we can gamify it, whatever. Yeah. Oh, you need somebody to watch your kids. Oh, you need a snowboard? I'm getting rid of one. There's that piece of community, but then there's also, like, the community of you and I, right? Of our families. And think about, like, how many communities that we're attached to, and now being one of those times that same thing. So for my family, especially like on my mom's side, I see them maybe once a year at a Christmas or Thanksgiving or something like that. We had a Zoom call the other day for, a good hour, and I got to see all my cousins and their kids, my aunts and uncles from all over. It was awesome. It was kind of a shit show because none of them had ever used Zoom.
Oh, that's always super entertaining. Oh, and painful.
Right. But it was awesome. They're like, well, what is this? We should do this more often. I'm like, yeah, this is, it's bringing people together in a different way.
It really
is. In a virus-free way.
Yeah, very much so. It's so fun watching people using Zoom for the first time. Like, I don't know why it took me so long, but I had a Zoom meeting with my Engearment team last Friday night, and I didn't know this. Maybe you don't know this yet either. You can put videos in your background. Do you know this? Oh, I'm gonna blow some minds real quick. So you can take people on a journey. Ooh, hey, Mount Shuksan, look at that! Whoa! You can take them Aurora Borealis. Woo! Little things, right? Like, hey, we're gonna go up to Coon Hill, my favorite place in the world, and go snowboarding. Or San Fran. You can get creative, right? Nerdy stuff. Yeah. Nerdy stuff.
I've been playing around with that. For whatever reason, I couldn't do it on my computer. But
well, I got all the bells and whistles one, so I don't know if it makes a difference or not. But like you said, the ability to reach out and just communicate with people you care about has been amazing. Like, I think I watch my wife do this. She'll do her Zooms for work, and then we'll Zoom or Google Hangout or whatever chat or Duo, whatever it's called, with the nieces. Hey, there you go. Nice beach. See? Figuring it out. Look at you.
Hanging out.
You can take a person on a journey. I love it. Well, and also back in the previous conversation, you had a very actionable thing for any business owner, really, is having plans in place, giving the clients, the students, the people, the tools. Like, you were smart. And Jeff Sokol did this too with his gym. Rented out a kettlebell, rented out a plate, rent out whatever, and recommend getting a backpack. That's very helpful. I don't know anybody who doesn't have a backpack, right? There's 2 hanging right there, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. I've got 6 right there. I'll give you a backpack if you need a backpack, but you can load it up with weight, right? And then, most of the people I work with, very early on, I was a very strong advocate for purchasing a TRX, get a couple kettlebells, and you know what? That way you can continue your training when you're traveling or on the weekends or whatever, when we're not in front of each other. And now more than ever, it's been super helpful because those people are just, like we were joking before the podcast, they're setting pandemic PRs,
The pandemic PRs, man, it's a real thing. But it's only a real thing if you're training, right?
I can go through my Evernote and give you all the testimonials in the world of 6 people this week alone setting PRs. And that doesn't always happen even in the best of training times, but more recovery, more access to sleep and things like that go a long distance, which that's a very important part here. I think a lot of people are realizing, at least my perception of it, is training super hard. People going into group classes to get crushed, and they're always getting run down and cranky, and now they're getting a little more time to sleep, and they're probably feeling a little bit better if they are training, feeling a little bit better and stuff, and realizing there's more to health and fitness than crushing. And
absolutely. I mean, you took, especially some people who let's say you were one of those high-powered overachievers, right? You were a 5:30 a.m. group class, so you're used to getting 3, 4, hopefully not, but probably less than 6 hours of sleep.
Yep.
Then you came in, right? Jumped under a barbell or did some absolutely soul crushing workout, then went about your day, right? Your hormones may not been in the best, in the best spot, right? But
sure.
Yeah, I'm not a hormone specialist, but like adrenal fatigue is a real thing, right? And I've seen so many people that went from that kind of like higher stress routine to now they get a little bit more sleep. Now they're focusing on a little bit more body weight. Especially like the classes on Zoom, our classes, that they ebb and flow, right? Some of them have been bigger than our classes in person and some of them have been smaller, right? But we still have that individual attention. I can open up, somebody's window and say, hey, slow it down, right?
So good.
And it immediately in real time. But now people actually, I know people are tired of push-ups, and we're not just doing push-ups every day, folks. There's a lot of opportunities in the existence programming.
Oh, yeah.
But people do have a chance to focus a little bit more on their own body weight, right? And it's like Greg Cook says, the whole FMS protocol, what do our body patterns look like? And so now people are actually having a chance to look at their body patterns without a ton of weight and maybe just slowing it down, talking a lot about strong first, building tension, right? When are we tensing? When are we relaxing? And just getting some good, solid quality movement in. We've been doing recovery classes on Sundays. A lot of people have been just finding yoga videos and things like that online. I mean, if you're looking for, just type in yoga on YouTube and follow along.
Right.
Like that in and of itself is just getting you moving better. I don't know.
No, that's fantastic. You brought up another good topic, and I haven't done this yet. I've not done a group Zoom. So I learned something in that conversation there. I had Pat Flynn on Monday, and over the weekend he had his group Bells and Beers class.
Yeah.
And so he was able, like you said, to go in and see what everybody's doing and pull them up like, oh, hey, Bob, squat, chest looks forward. Don't come forward. Coach and coach effectively too. So I'm actually going to put something together after this call and get a group going tonight. That you've encouraged me to do that. So thank you for that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that is, sorry.
Oh, no.
I was just going to say what's cool about, so I feel like if you're a personal trainer and you've had these one-on-ones, typically you know that your student knows how to put their knees over their toes, right? Or weight on the heels, or, tense this, tense that, which makes it really easy for a group class. If I was just to take, 6 random people and take them through, not impossible, but much more challenging. And that's where, like, whether it's a virtual class or whether it's an in-person class, we are still, I'm a huge advocate for that one-on-one personal attention first before someone ever gets into a group class. They build the confidence on the movements, right? And they feel like they know what they're doing.
Yes.
Right. They feel like they're just thrown into something. So that's been very helpful because all of the people who are now in the Zoom classes have been through one-on-one coaching, which is very cool. Now we say, hey, we're doing squats. There's nobody that says, can you show me a squat again? For the most part, every now and then, I don't expect everybody to memorize every one of the 100 movements that we do. But, for the most part, if they know the foundations, right, we can give them a very quick cue. And even online virtual, like it amazes me every time that I'm watching, 12, 15 people and I say, hey, let's say, try to not use a
name.
So, yeah.
Francesca.
Right. John. I don't know. There's we have too many Johns. Hey, John, push your knee out. And then like John immediately pushes his knee out. I'm like, oh, it's like magic.
Yeah.
Like he's miles away. But I feel like a sorcerer.
Right. It's very empowering for us and for them. And I'm working on some content today, and I'm so impressed with this virtual training that I'm going to keep at least a third of my business open just for it, because it's been so helpful to help people. Like you said, they're not in front of you. They're not even probably in the city. I've worked with a person in Finland and in Chile, and remote, real remote. So
right,
the power to do this is super cool.
That is a very the unique opportunity. Typically when we were throwing, like if I was going to put a flyer out somewhere for our physically based training center, I put flyers up in the brewery that's like a half mile away. I put flyers up, you know, in a school that's 2 miles away, but within a 3-mile radius, that's where the flyers go to train at this physical training center. Boom. Physical training center doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
Next. I guess it's open to the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I have a Zoom account and that's what I'm doing, wow, like that's a game changer. And it's, you know, it's about that adaptability. It's about that quick pivot, you know, immediate action.
Yep.
And figuring out, okay, what does this look like? Most people are doing virtual, but still, it still comes down to the same principles that, you know, all good coaches use, is sitting down with that person and letting them know that you are here for them. Like, what is it that they need? Is it accountability? Is it nutrition? Right? Is it fitness? Is it technique? Is it all of that? And how frequently? And all of that can be done virtually.
Oh, I love it. You know, anybody listening to this should be taking a lot of notes, because this is stuff that they can do right now and improve their business and help their people immediately. And it's totally doable. So this is like gold. and
on the opposite end of that spectrum, you know, I feel like we've been talking a lot to coaches. For anybody out there, I know that, you know, your audience is not just coaches. I know there's a lot of those folks out there, but anybody who is out there that's like, man, I would like to get into a routine. You probably know a coach, right? You probably know a personal trainer, and that personal trainer may have just been let go from their position at the big box gym or wherever it is. You know, seek that person out. If there's someone on your Facebook feed or Instagram that you follow that you enjoy, see what kind of personal programs they have out there, right? See what kind of online, like Sean, you have your full like mountain fitness training online, like full, was it 12 weeks, 16 week?
Yeah. 12-week program. Yeah.
12-week program.
Yep.
There's this weird, you know, there's a ton of memes out there on like what happens in the first week of pandemic, second week of pandemic. You know, the first week people are like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I'm going to have a beer at 10 a.m. Like the world's all going to shit. Like, I don't know. And then the second they're like, okay, this is serious. Okay. Maybe do I need toilet paper? I don't know. And everybody's going to hit these different points at different times. Right. And I think a lot of people have hit this point to where like, okay, you know, we threw an article out a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it, on 3 ways to come out of this, right? Come out a drunk, a chunk, or a hunk. And that one, it was something that I was told long ago when I was in the Navy. We might have talked about it on the last podcast. I don't remember.
What's your business?
So I got an opportunity to be stationed on this little tiny island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And before I went, it's a tiny little place. Now, it's a beautiful tropical paradise, right? In about a 1-mile radius that you'll be in for 6 months, right? You can't go to the movie theater. You can't go to the mall. You can't go to In-N-Out Burger. There's no family, you know, like you're there just like, okay. Now, I made the most of it, right? I'm a glass half full type of guy. But before I got there, a friend of mine, she was like, look, you can come off of that island one of 3 ways, right? A drunk, a chunk, or a hunk. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, you can eat your sorrows away. You can drink your sorrows away, or you can just say, screw it. Like, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to get swole. This is what I'm going to spend my time doing. I'm not going to tell you, I didn't spend my time in the gym, unfortunately, but because I didn't take her advice, you know, that was 2003, so 17 years ago.
Yeah.
That was kind of a message. I was like, hey, I thought that was a pretty great message. Like, there are 3 ways you can come out of this, right? You can look at this as just like, well, I guess I'm going back to the refrigerator again, right? Or guess I need to go to the liquor store again and try to forget about what's going on. Or like we said earlier, like, you've been gifted with this opportunity to really take your own health maybe a little bit seriously. And not only just like to, you know, have your pants fit better or anything like that, but like the more sick someone is, or the more out of shape, the more potential they have to really be hampered by this virus.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And anybody can get it, right? Like, there's been CrossFit athletes, top level CrossFit athletes that have been affected by this. There's been athletes of all types. And, you know, what keeps being touted in the media is that if you are older, right, if you have these comorbidities, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, diabetes, like these are big issues, right? If you get hit with this virus and you have one of those comorbidities, like,
Bad news.
It's not looking good, right? It's bad news. So, you know, if you don't want to work out just to be jacked and tan, right? Do it just for like, okay, like nobody wants a virus. And there are some people out there like, yeah, you know, it's like, technically speaking, it's got like less than a 1% death rate. It's unlikely that you're going to die from this virus, but like nobody wants a virus.
No.
If you had the option of getting the flu or not, like most people are going to choose not to get it.
And that's a great point. You know, we talked about that before the recording. And last week I was talking with a person out in Washington State who has a background in not epidemiology, but endocrinology. And he's a very smart person, much smarter than I am. And all three of us, we're outdoor athletes, right? We love to recreate outside. We don't want anything hampering us. And like you said, nobody wants to get sick, right? Now, I think the people who are spreading information are like, it's only 1% mortality rate. But okay, passing away from something totally sucks. But what also sucks is being really, really sick, you know, and lasting repercussions. When I was talking with Russell Cunningham last week about this, we actually know some people our age, very healthy, like people who climb 21,000-foot mountains like it's nothing, right? They got it, and their lung capacity, their efficiency, their life has been compromised and changed by at least 10, 15%. That's a lot. And that's an extremely healthy person. You take an average person.
It's huge.
It's huge. That's literally like, you know, I don't want to put it into numbers and stuff. It's very big. It's a big quality of life change. Now imagine that person wasn't that extreme health, you know, person climbing 21,000-foot peaks and eating, you know, completely great food. An average person who is eating DiGiorno's, which I know I've eaten DiGiorno's, it's good stuff, but you know, eat some DiGiorno's and watching Tiger King, and they get this, and their you know, chances of fighting it are not as high as the other person I just mentioned. They may not die, but man, their quality of life is going to take a drastically big change for quite a while, maybe forever.
And even if so like take the death rate out of it. Let's say there was a 0% death rate. Well, a lot of these people are still being hospitalized. And if I'm someone who like, maybe I don't die, but maybe I go to the hospital. If I go to the hospital and there's not enough ventilators, right? Maybe I don't die, but maybe the person that was on the ventilator before, I mean, those are some very difficult decisions that they had to make in Italy and China. And that, like, I think that's one of the biggest things that hopefully people realize, right, is that it's not about something that's killing, you know, less than 1% of the population. It's about not overloading our medical staff, right? Our first responders and things like that. Because if I get ridiculously sick and I do have to go to the hospital, that's the Rad Max videos, right? I'm trying to tell people, like, be careful with your knives right now when you're chopping vegetables, right?
Yes.
Be careful, like on a bicycle, wear your helmet. Like the last place you want to have to go right now is the hospital, right? Because you don't want to have to take up a bed of someone's grandmother that really needs that ventilator, right? But people are still having heart attacks, right? People are still having strokes. People are still accidentally, you know, cutting their fingers off when they're using chainsaws out in the backyard, you know, trying to do yard work. Like all that stuff's happened. So just the idea of a little bit more mindfulness. Nobody ever wants to chop a finger off, right? Nobody ever wants to get sick. But right now we have this extra time where, you know, maybe the rat race is not so fast. You know, maybe we can take a minute, think about, you know, being here now, if you will. Think about being present. And typically, you know, when you are present, it's less likely that you get injured, right? If I'm thinking about setting my kettlebell down on the floor versus dropping it at the end of the workout, the chances of me smashing toe are way less.
Yeah,
right.
It's a very good point you're bringing up, and there's some things I'm going to add to it. I was talking to Pat Flynn this week. You know, this is also a time to be a lot less selfish, right? For the good. I said the greater good. He said the good, just to be good, right? For example, about tapering down craziness. So as you know, I help run what I believe at the moment is the biggest Facebook group in the world for backcountry skiing and snowboarding. Something like 8,000 people, right? It's a lot of people to deal with. And that's a whole other can of worms right there. But, you know, we made a blanket statement, I think the end of March, about that's my split board. It's in my house. It's not in my truck. I'm not going to go use it because I haven't been in the mountains since the middle of March. I made that decision for a few reasons. Like you said, I selfishly don't want to wind up in the hospital for recreating. And what I do and what people like me do is pretty damn dangerous. If it's not for an avalanche hurting you or killing you, you could hit a rock or a stump. A whole lot of things could happen, and there's nobody there to help you. Best case scenario, you get search and rescue, and those guys are all volunteers, and then they're at risk now, right? And
they're still having to use that same PPE. They're still having to try to keep distance. They're still having to,
and those resources, in my opinion, should be used to maintain the good, right? Not on me being a selfish person. So, myself and a lot of people in the group, a lot of people I respect in the group, made a decision to not recreate out there. Trust me, man. I wrote the book on splitboard. It's right there. I love it. I love the challenge, right? Like that's my thing.
Yeah. But you literally wrote the book on splitboarding.
Literally, it's on Amazon. It's not a good book, but it's there. But
it's the best book on splitboarding there is.
It's the best and only. I actually got 2 reviews on Amazon, and they're not good, but I've got like 5,000 compliments from people who actually did read the book, and it helped them. So
it's those kind of 2 though. It's those two that sting.
Yeah, one in Scotland. I'm like, is there splitboarding in Scotland? And people are fascinating, and that's another topic about creating content that is open to public. It's also open to assholes. And they will fall over you, and it's hard not to take it personal. That's a whole other topic.
Haters gonna hate, man. Haters gonna hate.
I tell you, on an average day, I probably get, on YouTube alone, probably 30 questions or comments, right? And of those, they're getting better because I've also, sometimes there is some constructive criticism. Like the biggest constructive criticism that I've learned from is audio. So I thought I was doing a great job going to the mountains in a blizzard and shooting a review on a 4-season tent. And it does look good, but blizzards are loud and noisy, and wind is horrible. Nobody wants to hear wind, especially through headphones or on big speakers. It's not good. So anyways, I learned from that. Long story longer, a lot of the comments are really positive and engaging, but there's always like 5 or 10% that are just, they make you think. Like I lose a little bit of sleep sometime, like, whoa, that was very uncalled for, But it's the nature of creating content, and people like you and myself and others have to have some courage and vulnerability and just like, I'm going to put this out there. I intend for it to be perceived well, to help people. There's going to be some people over here who are going to say some things that are really hurtful and painful and inaccurate, and I feel bad for that person or those group of people, right? So they have their pain, and I can't fix it. But for the greater good, we're going to put this out there, and hopefully at least one person benefits from it, and that makes me happy.
Absolutely, man. I have kind of a funny story on that, on the haters.
Oh, please.
So, I'm not a big influencer, and you can tell that because I don't have a whole lot of haters, right? The bigger someone gets, right, the more like the more you're pushing one message, the more there are going to be people that are pushing against that message, right? And like our message isn't necessarily for everyone. I think everyone could benefit from it. Like we talk about fitness a lot, and like when it comes to being selfless, like one of the best things that we could do right now is nothing, right? And just like, hey, maybe don't go out, right? At the same time, I think one of the best things someone could do is being selfish when it comes to your own fitness.
Oh, for
and
sure.
I look at that in terms of like putting your own mask on first when the plane's going down, right? So we use the term all the time, like be an asset, not a liability. If I can, if I can help develop someone into a stronger, more capable human, I know that they might be able to help their neighbor out, help their roommate out, help their mom, dad, brother, sister, son or daughter, right? But like if I'm in control of my own fitness, there's a lot of stuff that I can't be in control of. I'm not in control of whether the government, opens up the gym next week or a month from now, but like I am in control of what I put in my mouth. I'm in control of like how many times I drop down and do a squat or stretch my shoulders, throughout the day. But one of the things that I keep pushing out there is like, look, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You have to kind of be prepared, right? So like I was a scout for a very long time. Be prepared, and be prepared for when being prepared doesn't work. Yeah. And so as you know, in existence, it's not just sagittal plane movements. We have 6-foot walls in the back that we train people to get up and over a wall. So I put this video out a few weeks ago. I was like, look, you never know when you're going to have to jump over a wall in the apocalypse. And it was kind of half joking, but like, when the zombies come, man, like, hey, the average backyard fence is about 6 feet tall. And it was more talking about how to use your body efficiently to get up and over an object. And we had a lady that reached out and she was like, I'm never going to have to do that. Thanks for the fear mongering. And I was like, ooh. And at first it kind of like, kind of got me a little bit. And I was like, hey, you know what? You never know what you're going to have to do. Nobody thinks they're going to have to. I didn't think I was going to have to shut the doors, right? And continue paying thousands of dollars in rent over a couple months, right? Like, I didn't think I was going to have to do virtual classes. Right. You never know, right? So like, although we can't necessarily be prepared for everything out there, there are certain things that you can always do, especially when it comes to your own personal fitness, right? So that's Colorado personal fitness, right? Like,
you gave a good feedback there. Put your mask on first, be the asset, not the liability. And that goes in a lot of, I've done a lot of therapy myself, worked through a lot of stuff. And the big takeaway, there's a lot of takeaways, but self-love, taking care of yourself first, then you can serve others, right? And
yes,
it's it is selfish. It's 100% selfish because it is you, right? You have to take care of you first. Then if you are at full capacity, then you can go out and you can positively affect and help so many more, right?
1,000%.
Yeah, you get it. And we're preaching the same message, and I love it. But it's kind of funny getting the haters, the comments. I'll go on a tear here. So that group I was mentioning, Facebook group, we put that message up, and by and large, it was appreciated, especially by doctors and nurses and people, first responders. We had search and rescue reach out and comment and like, that's awesome. 9 News reshared it. Like, it was well received. Nice. But on the flip side, we received more backlash for that than anything. We received private messages threatening our well-being. I'm not even kidding. We had to contact local authorities in different states because people are threatening us. And I was like, are you serious? A bad comment on YouTube is one thing, saying the audio is bad, or like asking, I'm never going to do without 6-foot wall. But when people, I think, I'm trying to be curious, trying to empathize, are in such a bad spot that they react to that level, it's concerning for sure. But it's weird, and I hope that nobody else out there has to encounter that kind of negativity or opposition for doing something that is for the greater good, right? So it's kind of interesting in that group too. We get a lot of comments from people, oh, you need to moderate more, or you're moderating too much. And if they even only knew how much effort goes behind the scenes, like how much effort you guys are doing behind the scenes, it's not like you just roll out of bed and just boof, do something, right? You put a lot of I've been to your place, Gain Central Station. You have big whiteboards, man. Like, you're like a mad scientist with equations I can't even follow. And you put a lot of thought into system. I will hope people understand out there, when a person like yourself and Garrett and all of our friends put out something to help people, it is from a good place. There's a lot of effort, a lot of love that goes into it. But it also hurts when somebody comes back and says something negative about it or threatens you.
And
that's crazy.
I think you hit it there, and it was like, getting curious about that, because someone that threatens your life or throws one of those, whoa, where did that comment come from? That's somebody who's coming from a pretty dark place, right? There's no telling, like, maybe they just lost a loved one. Maybe the only thing that they had going for them was the fact that, like, they could get out in the mountains and now they're trapped inside. Maybe they lost their job, and there's no telling. But
exactly,
that's not an excuse for threatening someone's life by any means. Oh. But it's one of those things. I mean, I've heard a lot of comments, a lot of talk about people kind of snappy. People getting snappy right now, whether it's like, I don't have any kids, I'm not married, but like, this is a time where, like, you're probably spending more time around your family than ever before. And they're going to remember this, especially if there's kids, right? Like, they're always going to be, hey, you remember the pandemic of 2020? Like, that was the thing. Remember, like, you did all those puzzles, right? Like, you did the same puzzle 1,000 times.
Yep.
But it's easy to snap on people. It's easy to get in a state of fear or that scarcity mentality, right? Versus being curious about, like, okay, why is this happening? Right? Stopping and taking a few deep breaths.
Yeah,
that's one of
never
a
bad thing. Just pause, breathe.
Yeah, but I don't believe there are people out there that are just necessarily wishing to cause harm on others, but something happened to them, something that even the hater that the one hater that we had that said that we were fear mongering. Yeah, something's going on right now. She's probably scared, right? She's probably coming from a place of fear, and it sounds cheesy, but like, you gotta fight that fear with love, man.
Ryan, you
Come
are
from a place
absolutely
of
right.
love.
Here's a funny correlation. Okay, so I had written a review on a split boarding boot and put it up years ago, and somebody commented, real horrible comment too, and I lost sleep. I read this. I didn't sleep that night. I was like, God, I felt really personally attacked. I was like really curious and really frustrated by the whole situation. Fast forward 3 or 4 months, and I'm doing my first aid, CPR, AED renewal, and it's actually at this split board company's factory, Oz, and it was for split boarders and backcountry skiers, taught by a medical professional who's a split boarder instructor. And in the class is a bunch of us dirtbag knuckle dragging split boarders, right? and you know, I put my name tag on, and some people recognize who I was because the split board community is not that big, right? It's really easy to be somebody in the community, and we're all, you know, enjoying snow. Anyways, the person right next to me, who's my partner for the EpiPen, you know, they have the fake EpiPen, and so I had the fake EpiPen in my hand, and he puts his name tag on, and I'm like, oh, I think we might have had discussion online. He's like, oh. And I'm like, check this. Stab him with the fake EpiPen in his leg. And now we're friends. It all worked out. And that's like the only time I've ever encountered somebody that was like it was a keyboard warrior situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we hang out on our birthdays, and you know, he's a good guy. You know, hung out with his wife and dog and stuff. We camp, and just a fun guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It is so much easier, especially like right now, the keyboard warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to talk smack. If you get in front of that person, like it's a different story, man. Yeah, you know, like
it is. And
come from a place of love.
Yeah, that's well said. Well, speaking of characters, let's talk about Rad Max. What is the creation story with Rad Max?
Rad Max, Sean, he's a bit of a wild card, you know.
His voice.
So yeah, I'm a fan of characters.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing characters, quote unquote, since I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that people could use a good laugh during, not just in a pandemic, but like people are freaking out, man. And one of my, you know, I don't know if you want to say talents, if you will, is a little bit of entertainment, right? And
yeah.
So like mention, you know, Greg Cook again. The first time I heard this word, and I thought it was just brilliant. I use it all the time. Greg Cook talked about what he calls entertainment. And if you guys don't know Greg Cook, inventor of the FMS, and it was
the FMS right there. Boom,
boom.
There it is.
Ooh, is that the wooden? Is that
the
wooden
dude.
version?
Of course, I get the wood. I love wood. Yeah, I like wood.
So, entertainment is the idea that like I can tell you to do 3 sets of 10 lunges, and that's going to get results. And then next week we're going to put some load on those lunges, and you're going to keep your back straight, and maybe we're going to go lateral as well. Right. And that's going to be boring as shit. And that person's going to quit because they're not having any fun. Mm-hmm. Unless you're training a robot. Right. So like the idea of, you know, throwing out a question of the day, the idea of, you know, throwing a little bit of gamification in there. Oh, you can do a single leg deadlift. Cool. Now we're going to train your brain. Close your eyes. Try the same thing. Right. There's a ton of things that you can do to entertain people while at the same time training them to get from point A to point B. And I learned long ago, you know, one of the number one things that's going to keep someone coming back for your services when it comes to coaching is if they're having fun. Yep. Results is actually the second. So I was in a seminar, and this guy John Gilson runs a company, Again Faster. Started off with boot camp, ended up running a multi-million-dollar equipment company, and he said, "Hey, what's the number one reason someone's going to come back to you as a coach?" And I was like, "I know this one. Results." He said, "Close, fun." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense because our people seem like they're having a pretty good time, right? But keeping that fun factor. So, like the fun factor when it comes to entertaining, I've always been a big fan of costumes since I was a little kid. My mom brought home, you know, that giant bulky video camera from work, and I was like, oh, we can make a movie. Yeah. And I kind of had this little epiphany the other day. I was like, well, I guess I can be, you know, I talk a lot about, you know, being your own hero. Or being, you know, the hero of your own movie, you know, whatever that is. Many people have said it many different ways, but be the person your dog thinks you are. You know, everybody's saying it.
I've never heard that one. I do like that one.
Everybody's saying it different ways. And I was like, well, I have YouTube, right? I have a captive audience. Let's see if I can make some people laugh, right? So created this character, Rad Max. And Rad Max, if you're familiar with Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, right? This guy's just a little bit more on the edge of maybe, maybe he's got a few screws loose, but he's also really passionate about science, you know, where fitness and nutrition and the ecosystem and carbon footprints, man.
Yeah.
He's into all that stuff. So the idea is that entertainment, right?
Yeah.
That's a little bit about, right? He has a cooking show now.
He has a cooking show. I learned last night about topsoil. Like, it's mind-boggling. You've done a great job of entertainment. I've not heard that word, but it's key. And, you know, you bring up another good point. It's not about the numbers or the results. That is very important, in my opinion. And I track all those metrics as well. But when we go into coaching, I do kind of put on, like, I'm an introvert by nature, but when I go in to go coach in a group setting especially, I'm like, oh, all right, bad pirate joke. All right, we gotta make this person laugh over here. Like, you know, and then people loosen up, and then they take the training seriously, but they don't take themselves too seriously, right? And it really helps.
Right.
So,
and there's one of my favorite books that I read last year was The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman. And the alter ego effect goes into, I'm not going to, go into it too much, but it was recommended to me by several folks. I'm like, okay, I'll check out alter egos, right? How you make an alter ego. One of my favorite examples from the book was Beyonce. And Beyonce created this alter ego of someone who could actually dance and shake it on stage, because she grew up as a very reserved, very, very quiet church singing choir girl.
Yeah.
And at some point somebody was like, you got to shake it on stage, girl. And she was like, well, I can't do that. So she created this alter ego, right? Sasha Fierce. And then lo and behold, she eventually came out with an album, I Am Sasha Fierce, when she stepped into that full stage presence. Now, you don't necessarily have to step into every alter ego, but different situations call for, maybe a slightly different personality. And what they go into for an example, like if I'm a drill instructor and for 8 hours a day, I'm screaming in people's faces, and then I just have a maybe 15-minute car ride home, and then I have to be the loving husband or father, whatever that is, that's not so easy to just shut off immediately. And so it gives people who might have to be very different in their day job versus their home life versus their friendships or whatever that is, just a little bit of an idea. And it's not faking it, but it's just, if I need to be a certain person for this experience right here, right, what would that person do? Yeah. And it really allows you to kind of step into that alter ego. And so that the alter ego of Rad Max was also just getting a little bit fed up with people delivering fitness and nutrition information in a very dull, boring manner and with extreme tact. So Rad Max, he likes to drop an F-bomb or two.
Yes, he does.
He's not exactly tactful, and he's very science-based, and he's just going to lay it out exactly how he feels. And maybe you resonate with it because it's just spun slightly different than what you're used to hearing,
Yeah. Oh no, you're right. It's educational for sure. I didn't know about the day drinking and HRV. That's great. I was like, all right, I'll look into this. But it's entertaining. I definitely will put some links to your YouTube on the podcast notes for sure, so people can enjoy Rad Max. Hamburger earmuffs for the kids, some F-bombs.
Yeah, Rad Max is definitely. My mom got on. My mom's one of my biggest critics. Biggest fans too. But she's like, oh, I really wish Rad Max wasn't swearing. And I was like, well, this Rad Max isn't for kids, Mom. She's like, yeah, but you could show this video to kids. And like, no, Rad Max is not for kids.
Right. He's got a Modelo Negro in his hand, and he's making beef stew, talking about topsoil and dropping F-bombs. No.
Right. I'm talking about day drinking HRV. That message does not necessarily hit home with a first grader.
Yeah. Juice box day drinking. Yeah.
Right. Hey, and actually that's fantastic, because truly, right, the more sugary carbohydrates you have closer to bed, the more your heart rate rises. So just on a little science note there, right, like this is true. So when, Sean mentions that, HRV day drink, and what we're talking about there is, the closer to bedtime that you put something in your system that your system has to work against, the worse your sleep. And so alcohol is a great example. If I put a bunch of alcohol into my system before bed, my heart rate has to elevate because it has to pump blood faster to get that toxin out of my body. And when it does that, I lose out on REM sleep. I lose out on that growth hormone cycle. And F's your sleep up, you know, and sleep is like we say, sleep's like free steroids, Sean. You know what I'm saying? People pay good money for that shit. All right.
That's good.
And, you're messing it up with the booze before bed. But yeah, juice box, man. If you take a juice box or a bunch of sugar before bed, like that's kind of the same thing, right? Like your body treats that sugar like a toxin. It wants to get it out of the system as quickly as possible, right? Because it doesn't want high blood sugar levels. And that could absolutely, if I have a big glass of juice before I go to bed, that's probably not going to affect my HRV very well.
That is a very insightful and actionable. Well, I will this Saturday.
Boxes away from the kids.
Yeah, this Saturday I will recommend my niece's day juice box, and I will day drink, and I will see how it works out.
Yes.
I actually, when I saw that, I was watching. Oh, this is hilarious. My wife does not work on weekends. I like to work 24/7. I like working a lot, right? You know, like you. Like, there's a great idea. I should write that down or make a video or write a song. But so we compromise, as all relationships do, in a good way. And so on Sunday, it's like, what movie do you want to watch today? It took me 10 years to get to the spot. I got to watch Lord of the Rings, like 2 of them in a row. And then she was into it, and I got to watch the 3rd one. And then The Hobbits.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a great week. We had to spread out. And anyways, those are good movies. You should revisit them, especially right now. But yeah, I did day drink. I was like, oh, all right. And I stopped at like 6 and, made some tacos. I did have a good night of sleep. So,
and it's not to say that day drinking is completely without, any sort of consequence or repercussions, right? Like that's still alcohol in general. But if you are going to do it, and chances are it's a goddamn pandemic right now. Yeah. Like most people are drinking a little bit. Like chances are you're going to drink. But if you really want to take advantage again of this extra sleep that you get, and maybe you don't care, maybe you're getting extra sleep, so you figure you could screw a couple hours of it, whatever. But yeah, I would advise, right? I'm not a doctor, just play one on TV. But I would advise maybe getting in that booze a little earlier. The tricky thing is, if you're going to work out as well. So like the routine, right? If you can get up early enough, knock out the workout, right? Eat a good healthy breakfast / lunch, whatever that is. And then if you are going to have a couple beverages, maybe you time that somewhere in the middle. And most of you guys are working from home right now. It's not like you couldn't have a drink at work, and
right.
You'll be fine.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's actionable. It's helpful. And here's a funny story. My friends were DJing at a club here in Denver, and Macho Man Randy Savage came in. Oh yeah, right. And my friends
who is also an inspiration for Rad Max.
I was wondering. I had a pretty strong feeling he was. So he comes in there, and he's my friend is like, say it. And back then he was doing the Slim Jim. I'm gonna snap into a Slim Jim, And Macho Man's like, I don't want to say it. My friend's like, please say it. We'll say it in the microphone because he's DJing at Club Church, and I don't want to say it. I'm on a date right now, guys. This goes back and forth like 4 or 5 minutes, and then finally he says it in the microphone, and everybody enjoyed it. But
oh man,
I know, man, it's a fun story.
You want to talk about an alter ego? I don't know if you've seen any of the documentaries on Macho Man Randy Savage, but that guy apparently. So I do too much Rad Max, but once Macho Man Randy Savage became Macho Man Randy Savage, that's who he was at all times.
Right.
At all times. So like your buddy,
yeah.
Right? Like he's talking to him, and I imagine like he's there in the DJ booth, and he's like, "Hey, Macho Man, say it." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to say it, brother." Yeah,
exactly.
Here's the thing: nobody talks like that.
Yeah.
Nobody like Macho Man Randy Savage didn't sound like that in 5th grade. Right? He probably didn't sound like it when he got his driver's license. But at some point, and who knows, maybe he had a screw or two loose, but like I love watching the documentary because anytime someone tells a story about Macho Man Randy Savage and they say something that Macho Man said, they say it in his voice.
Right.
Whether it's a guy telling the story, a girl telling the story, like it's absolutely hilarious. Look up Macho Man documentaries and you'll hear people just tell these outrageous stories. Macho Man came in and he was like, "Hey, you guys gotta quiet down in here." Like nobody talks like that, man. But he just became like he stepped into that Macho Man, right? Like that's just who he became.
Well, that goes back to the point earlier about having like the alter egos, right? And then finding that as a source of empowerment or comfort, or like, for him, he just owned it. That he felt better, he operated better that way, and that was him.
Yeah.
I'll look into that. I'll put a link to that in notes too, because that would be very, very entertaining. Probably more than Tiger King, but which we did watch. I did indulge in that, and I was like, gosh, people are interesting.
Yeah. I had a Carol Baskin, man.
Yeah.
I had this full plan, actually wrote out a script to do a parody of it about a guy that loves kettlebells.
Mm-hmm.
And he's instead of tigers. And I think the time has passed. I feel like if I would have done it 2 weeks ago, the memes have died down a little bit. Yeah. I just don't think it would be as funny anymore. So I got to come up with a new character.
Oh, and you will. You're really good at this. Well, Ryan, I always enjoy talking with you and sharing insights that are entertaining, they're entertaining. Yeah.
Entertaining.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that's very actionable for fitness professionals, for business professionals, for people on the other side too. Just, there's a lot to unpack in this episode. So thank you for that.
Hey, thank you, man. I hope, I love talking with you, hanging out.
Talking with you too, man.
Even if it's, virtually, hopefully, just love sharing what's on our minds, hopefully, if people get something out of it, whether it's, reaching out to your community or, maybe not snapping back on somebody when they snap at you, coming from that place of love, whatever that is, or maybe it's day drinking, If there's something, take it away, use it. If it's useful, use it. If not, let it go.
So good. Yeah. Well, I'll have recaps of all that stuff too, hopefully in the notes, because there's a lot of stuff that's immediately actionable and stuff I'm going to do after this episode's over. I'm going to reach out to a lot of people too. So you've inspired me today. That's always
awesome,
nice.
Man. Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Well, Ryan, thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing your love and your knowledge and your entertainment. And we'll do this again here in a few weeks, and I'm sure we'll have something, new projects we've created we want to share with the world. And
yeah, man, it is content central over here at Gaines Station. So there's no telling what we're going to create, man.
Oh, I look forward to seeing it all. It's always good stuff, man. Well, awesome, guys. And for you out there listening to a podcast or viewing the video, thank you for your time. And I think from Ryan and myself, love to you and love to your families, and strength to you as well.